problem with dating advice is because it depends on the attachment style. Attachment style really dictates how those interactions go about.
He's not responding. He's not saying anything. Let me do something to get an emotion out of him, because at least I can do something with an emotion. I can't do anything with silence, right? We don't need to escalate to prove that you do love me, because intrinsically I know that you love me, I love you. We're going to work through this together.
Like in therapy, they want me to be on their side.
Can't you believe them?
Can you believe they did that? I'm like, well, yes. They're talking about the problem because they need to talk about the problem, but they're not talking about the problem with the right person.
Yes. Welcome everyone back to another episode of The Lighter Side of Heavy Things, a podcast where myself, Chris Clark, along with Dwayne Horton here, two therapists at Pinnacle Counseling Center that spend our times kind of discussing of those lighter sides of the heavier things that we tend to deal with in our job. Today we're kind of continuing on with this little mini-series on attachment styles and the attachment theory. And kind of like as we left off last time, we discussed a lot about what the attachments are, but now it's maybe discussing what do we see when those attachments are in relationships with each other.
Right. Well, I mean, we get all the time, whether we're working with young adults who are single or, you know, people who are talking about getting married, if we're walking into, church or anything like that, people are always like, well, what should I look for in a partner? And my advice is always, well, it depends on what you want.
Yeah.
Right? But my favorite part of the dating advice tips that people give us, when you think about what they're saying, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Right? And what world did you think that was a good idea?
Yeah. I always love it when people tell me the dating advice they got, and you ask where they got it from, and it's someone who's either a serial dater or divorced or, like those sorts of things.
Yeah, somebody who has failure to commit.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, seems to be working well, that advice.
Yeah, tell me how that's working for them.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite ones that's kind of very popular right now is, act like you're not interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't show too much interest too soon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And what's funny is sometimes you see the opposite end of that, where there's maybe too much interest, where the other person just, I want to know everything that they know they like and all that sort of
like
stuff.
Like an infatuation almost, right?
Right. And then it's like, oh, you're just kind of smothering at that point, right? Either you're so aloof that this person just is like, man, who are you? To the other point of like, man, you're a little too much.
Yeah. Or the ones like, should I call them the next day? Is that too much?
Yeah.
Or, if I send them a text, will they think I'm needy?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I gotta wait 2 hours after they drop me off to say, oh, that was nice.
Or when they like get out the car and they're like, they only shook my hand. What does that mean?
Oh,
right?
Yeah. They only gave me a side hug.
Yeah. They didn't even get out of the car. They drove away.
Yeah.
Right?
They peeled out.
I barely got out with my purse. You know? It's like all the funny things that people say. It's like dating advice. And the problem with dating advice is because it depends on the attachment style. Attachment style really dictates how those interactions go about, right? So like in a world where it's like, hey, don't act if you're interested. Well, there is logic in that.
Right.
If you're dealing with somebody who is avoidant.
Yes.
Right? Who has an avoidant attachment system.
Well,
Yeah,
and it's funny because you bringing that up, right? There was a lot, for looking at societal or cultural things, that was a lot of dating advice back, say in the 90s or whatnot, act mysterious, that sort of stuff that you'd see in these, magazines, right? That they were giving out dating advice to women. And then what was hilarious is they would, these women would say that they did what the dating advice would say to them. They got these men that they wanted, and all of a sudden they fell back into being who they are. And all of a sudden these men were like, whoa, nope.
Yeah,
this isn't what I signed up for.
Right.
I'm out,
Or then they say be genuine, and they're like, well, what if I'm genuine and they don't like me? And you're like, oh, yeah, you got an anxious attachment.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh. So there's a lot that I think will come out as we're talking about this today. What do we see with these attachment styles within relationships, and what works and
Mhm.
what maybe doesn't work in their benefit, right? But I think overall, it's very important to remember, be willing to take that initiative, be patient
Right.
within those relationships, and if it's not working,
But listen to your needs.
right?
Because if you're having to stuff your needs down now so you can get the guy
Mm-hmm.
or the
Or the girl,
right?
Yep.
If you're trying to stuff yourself down, at some point later on, you're going to pay the price of that.
Yeah.
You'll find you're unhappy because of that choice.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to pay attention. A relationship is a partner of two,
Right.
right? Marriage relationship is a very unique relationship in all relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that type of relationship very often, pretty much anywhere.
Right.
The closest thing you could get to it, because a marriage relationship is a partnership of equals, right?
Yes.
Even in businesses, you don't ever have, or you rarely see businesses, if you create a partnership, that it be a 50-50 split. You typically split it 49-51 because you want somebody where the buck stops with, right?
Right.
But in a marriage relationship, it should never be that. Now, sometimes one partner needs to help out the other, and it doesn't mean all things are split equally, but it means that the decisions can be made equally.
Yes.
And the partners need to respect that right, that autonomy of that, right? And so if you are suppressing yourself for your partner to try and chase this guy, I would say you're not doing it right, because then you're not paying attention to your needs, your attachment style. And that's okay. We need to say, hey, wait, if that's what you're doing, let's let you out and see how the guy responds. Because if he's like, oh no, I'm gone, it might hurt. But that hurt's temporary. And moving forward, you might be like super grateful that you're like, oh, I didn't get with a guy that I would hate 10 years from now.
Right. And I think that's one of the benefits that comes with this attachment theory, right? We get away from that idealized love.
Right.
Where it's all about, getting Mr. Perfect or Miss Wonderful.
Right, the Disneyland idea.
Yeah. That it's okay if this relationship doesn't work out, because I recognize what I need and what the other person needs, and if we don't mesh, oh well, there's other people, right? So kind of going forward in this, we wanted to kind of break these things down, and we decided, let's start with the anxious attachment.
Right.
What do we see when they're in relationships, or how do they interact with others?
Well, anxious people tend to have big emotions, right?
Right.
And so we call their strategies that they use in a relationship like escalating strategies. They create more energy because their need is closeness, right? They crave not just connection, but deep connection. They want to feel loved. They want to love their partner. They want to be close. They want to know all the deep, dark secrets because that makes them feel good.
Right. Well, they also, it's almost like that idea of like they want to take two people and make them into one.
That they are very good at that, right?
Right.
And one of their strengths and weaknesses simultaneously is they are very sensitive. They're sensitive to tone. They're sensitive to body language. They're sensitive to, the environment. They pay attention to things. They know how to connect, as we said last time. But that could create obviously its own little complications there. And so today, I told you about this story. So this is not my, the girl that I was dating's name, out of, respect for this girl. I hope this woman is, different now.
And doing better.
And doing better and differently, or her partner could handle it. But it wasn't something I could handle, right?
Right.
So when I was dating, we're going to call this woman Kiki.
Yes.
Right? Because that's a funny name in my family, like Kiki. So we were dating, and we had probably been on 5 or 6 dates. We were kind of getting along, and she was fun to be around. And she was very impulsive like me, and we kind of did a lot of funny things together. But one evening, we kind of got into a disagreement, and it was late. I think it was like 12:30 at night.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? we're tired. Let's just go home, go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, you go to bed. I'll drop you off at your house because we aren't living together or anything, right?
Right.
I was like, I'll drop you off at home and I will go back home. We'll sleep it off. Things will probably be fine in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized at that point because I couldn't talk to her.
Yeah.
Right? If I talked, no matter what I said, that sensitivity was up. And I'm like, I hate drama. I hate conflict. I could deal with conflict fine, but I just like if the only reason I'm going to engage in conflict is as like, okay, there's a resolution that I can attain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, call it avoidant, but it's like it's pointless. I hate pointless conflict, especially circular. And when you're tired, it gets circular.
Yep.
So we're driving home, 12:30 at night. This is up in Utah County, and we're going to turn on this major road, and we're already on State Street, which is a pretty busy road for those who don't know it, and it's snowing. And I'm kind of just driving in silent, and I could feel her seething. Yeah. Well, we're getting ready to turn. All of a sudden, she reaches over and grabs the steering wheel and does this, and I'm like, what?
Like a steering wheel yank to wake you
up,
up, right?
I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Uh-huh.
You know, I was like, I don't understand. Why'd you do that? And I saw her reacting. I said, what was that? You know, because I saw her reacting, and so I'm like, okay, let's slow it down a little bit. And she's like, well, I just wanted to see what you would do. I was like, you could have killed us. It's snowing.
Right. And we're driving highway speeds.
Yes. What was that? She's like, well, I just don't know. I just wanted to get there. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. And in my head at this point, I realized, yep, we're done.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I never want to deal with this again. That's not only dangerous, but like she was attacking. So like in my mind, now that I'm a therapist, I look back on it, I was like, oh, she's anxious. She was an anxious attachment style, right?
Right.
Anxious people pursue, right? She wanted me to fix that problem, but I couldn't fix it in the moment.
Well, and it's also wanting her to see or know, you know, does he care?
Yeah.
Right? He's not responding. He's not saying anything. Let me do something to get an emotion out of him, because at least I can do something with an emotion. I can't do anything with silence.
Yeah, that escalating strategy, right?
Yep.
It's like, whoa, you just added way more fuel to that fire.
Well, and you know what I think is interesting in your story, if you want to share what happened later when you had that like, whoa, what's going on? And then you said, nope, we're, in your mind, you're like, I'm done. Okay. Like, we relax.
Well, as we turn, we make the driver driving toward her home, and she's like, I got to tell you, you didn't yell at me. I said, you're right. And I'm in my head thinking, you deserved it, but well, what's the point? What's the point, right?
Uh-huh.
I already had made my choice. I'm done. This is not safe for me, right? And she's like, well, I'm impressed you didn't yell at me. And I'm like, what? Well, what's funny is I told my wife this story long ago, and I reminded her of it because we were talking about what we're doing for this podcast. And she's like, without her to even know, we haven't really discussed the attachment styles or anything. And my wife's response was like, was she trying to see if you prove her love to you? And I was like, no, yeah. Did I say it backwards? I think I said it backwards. Your love to her?
She was trying, to prove your love to her.
Yep. Like, prove that I loved her. And I was like, I don't know, but that's very good insight. Like, That's really what it is. It's this idea of you got to prove your love to me. Anxious attachment like to be shown that they're loved. It was so bad. Like, she read my body language. And what was funny is she felt safe because I didn't yell.
Yeah. Well, and then she said to you, oh, you didn't yell at me like other guys have.
Yeah,
I'm safe.
Right.
I know I'm safe with you. I know I can be with you. And in your mind, you're like, I can't be with you, right?
I'm done. Like, no offense, but like, there's another man for you. Like, I couldn't put up with that. I knew in that moment, like, because I know who I am, my attachment style. I was like, when I got married, I wanted it to be once and done.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that if something arises, we can discuss it without causing something to happen, right? Mm-hmm. We don't need to escalate to prove that you do love me, because intrinsically I know that you love me, I love you. we're going to work through this together.
Right.
Right.
Without grabbing a steering wheel and rolling the car, right?
Yeah. And so, but again, that shows that anxious attachment, and how does that show up in relationships?
It shows up in the idea that they will escalate the situation. They want to solve the problem, but they do it by adding more energy into it, right?
Mhm.
They will pursue you. You're like, hey, I need space. But they have that fear of rejection, right? And so if you walk away from them, it's not that they don't read that the same way other people will with a different attachment. They read that as you're leaving me, as I'm not good enough. And that's what's activated.
Right. And so for her, right, again, coming back to what we discussed the last time, that anxious attachment or the anxious avoidant attachment, they very much will jump into or make a quick assumption, right? And based on that quick assumption, they then will run with it. And very oftentimes when they make that quick assumption, it is erroneous because, again, in her mind, right, that assumption she probably made in that moment was, oh, he's wanting to leave me. Or he doesn't care about me.
Yes.
Which is, okay, I'm going to do something then because I want to see if that's actually true, rather than saying, I feel like you don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Instead of just saying, hey, are we good?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Nope. I need to let's see what he does now.
And it's because of that fear of rejection. There leaves that simple question. It's not, to us, it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to make that very clear. But to her, that is one of the scariest questions that she would ever have to ask anyone.
Right. Do you care?
Do you care? Because it leaves her vulnerable to a no. Right? If she had just said, hey, are we good? I would have said yes.
Well, what's funny is that, and again, this is very important, is in her avoidance of the no, she created something that resulted in the no.
Yes.
Which is often what that anxious attachment does. In their effort to avoid the bigger thing that they're concerned or worried about, they end up creating or almost manifesting that thing they were trying to avoid in the first place.
Right. And I think, and I really do believe that, she found that out later, because I quit connecting with her because I was like, I don't want to hang out.
Yeah.
I
don't want to die.
I don't want to die. And it's not that I don't want to be rude, but my dating purpose was I wanted to get married.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Kiki's dating purpose was she wanted to get married. But I knew who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very hyper aware of my own anxiety. I'm hyper aware of my own faults, my own problems. I get all those, and they lead to problems, and they bring out ugly in people.
Right.
But so looking long term, I realized I couldn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know looking long term, she probably would have been frustrated with me.
Yeah.
And so it was better for us in that relationship to say, hey, no, right? So, but she really did like those deep connections.
Yeah. Following the anxious, we go into the avoidant, right?
Right.
And with the avoidant, they're, unlike the anxious where it's, we really engage, their attachment style, when it gets activated, they disengage, right? They're out.
They de-escalate the situation, right?
Mm-hmm. They oftentimes within those relationships, right, that they intimacy, closeness, those sorts of things are a little bit scary in some regards. It's not that they don't want it. It's just that opens me up for potential harm.
It's like a dual problem, right? Mm-hmm. It's like I want and I crave to be close, but being close feels really awkward.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. It opens up those emotions.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, I'd rather not.
Yeah. And so, what do we see in relationships when we bring in that avoidant? As we were discussing and talking about this, it kind of brought into memory this, I remember this clip of an old cartoon, right, from the, back in the 50s or so.
And we tried to find this to post it, but we couldn't find, YouTube. I wasn't there. They failed us for once.
Right. But in this cartoon, I guess basically they kind of set it up, right, that it's, you see this husband come home, walks in the door, and he's dressed up like he just got back home from work, And off screen is his wife, and she's like, "Oh, you're home," and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm home, honey. How was your day?" And he starts, taking off his hat, putting it on the coat rack, and setting his briefcase down and his umbrella down. And as he's doing that, off screen, we hear the wife talking about her day, and she's telling him all the things that went wrong. Oh, the kids. Oh, the neighborhood gossip and the neighbor, and oh, these things broke down today that you're going to have to fix. And she's just going on and on and on. And as he sets his stuff down, you then see him reach back up to the coat rack, and he grabs a fishing hat and he puts it on, and he grabs a fishing vest and he puts it on. He reaches behind the door and he grabs his fishing pole and his tackle box. And while he's doing this, right, he's just going, "Oh, really? Yeah, honey. Oh, okay." And then finally, as he gets all his gear, he opens the door again and says, "Well, honey, I'll see you at dinner," and then just turns around and walks out and shuts the door.
Like perfect avoidant mentality right there, right?
Right.
Because again, he's coming home from hard work at work. Now, I'm not trying to, in this, like, we're avoiding the whole idea that man's job is more difficult than a woman's job. Like, that is not at all what we're saying. But avoidant
it's
people,
an illustration,
like,
right?
Yes.
What does an avoidant person do?
Well, yes, they like, "Oh man, I thought I just escaped problems at work, and I came home. Oh, I can't handle this one. Now I know I have control here. I can't leave work, but I can leave home. I have power here to go." And
right.
So they leave.
Right. And it's very interesting because, yeah, we'll hear about men being avoidant. You also see it with women, right? Where they,
oh yes,
it doesn't matter which sex or gender it is. You see the exact same things in how they disengage.
Yes, they do, and they want to disengage because it's just, again, like you said, this brings up emotions.
Right.
So, like, how do they react in relationships? Well, we see this all the time, right? Well, like a client, like, is like they seem very calm, they seem very collected, and everything's fine, but you could see inside that something's stirring.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, whoa, I could feel that emotion radiating off of you. But the affect is very stoic, right? Yeah. And it builds and it builds and it builds. They're the pressure cookers, right? That are just like, if you don't get that pressure release valve off, you're going to get the explosion.
And that's why they leave.
Yes.
Right? Because that's them, again, releasing that pressure. Oftentimes, if the avoidant is forced to stay or stick with it, then boom, that pop blows. Yes.
And when it blows, it's usually yelling and, upset. And it's like, then you're bringing in, like, the stuff from, like, "Hey, you remember when we were dating 23 years ago and you said this to me?"
Yeah. You let me down because of X, Y, and Z when you did da 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 da, right? And you're just sitting there going, "Holy cow!"
Yeah, kitchen sinking it, right? You're like,
yeah.
Whoa, I don't remember that now, and that creates that dynamic within that relationship, a partnership of equals. Because if it's somebody who doesn't understand what's happening, or if they're anxious, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, I gotta start defending myself."
Right. And what's interesting, they talk about this what we see when an anxious and an avoidant get into a relationship. It's almost like we get this of the avoidant goes like, "Nope, I'm backing away," and then we have the anxious following, pursuing. Right? We got this chase that ends up happening where
and so, like, so them disappearing, the avoidant personality not personality, but attachment style. Avoidant attachment style disappearing. It's not just to avoid it; it's because they don't want to blow up, but it's also because they don't know how to put their words out there.
Yeah, the avoidant oftentimes, we see it with our clients when they come in. If it's in a couple or even just individual and they're talking about it, if they have an avoidant attachment style, their solution to these relationship problems or any problems that they experience in life is almost that, well, that's in the past, we'll leave it there, we'll sweeping it under the rug, and we'll just move on.
Right. Or, but they also they try and get, like, I can't even think of it. Like, people who are on their team, they try to get people to take sides. Like, so they gossip, right?
Yes.
They like in therapy, they want me to be on their side.
Can't you believe them?
Can you believe they did that? I'm like, well, yes.
Yeah.
But, like, what do you want? Do you want me just to be on your side and validate your feelings?
Yep.
Right? But they blame their partners. They gossip to friends. They engage in that stuff because they're talking about the problem because they need to talk about the problem, but they're not talking about the problem with the right person.
Yes. Yes. And they oftentimes as well are frequently on the lookout when it comes to their relationships.
Mhm.
They're looking for the ideal love, the
Oh,
ideal
yes.
one.
In a dating time, they're
Yeah.
always looking for the one.
Right. And as soon as someone shows just a little bit of, oh, I don't like that, they're like, yep, it's not going to work. I'm out. Done.
Yes. And in like long-term relationships, oftentimes what you see in like a committed married couple, they start sleeping in different rooms, right?
Mhm.
Or they have separate banking accounts, and you're like, well, that's weird,
Everything's very separate.
Mhm.
Right? You have your room, I have my room, or even you have your blanket, I have my blanket, or whatever it might be, right?
Right.
There's always that separation that they need to keep. But again,
you have your bills to pay, I'll pay my bills.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and that separation for the avoidant is the reason they want that is for safety.
Yes, and that's exactly right. Safety is a good word. If they need to cut and run, they can.
Yes. And so that avoidant, those are the behaviors when people with that with that attachment style get into relationships, that's what we see.
Mhm.
That's what starts coming out. And as we mentioned, that anxious and the avoidant, when they get into relationships, oh man, are the disagreements and the fights really big?
Right.
And you have a lot of the avoidant will be like, I'm going to go stay with my parents, or I'm going up to the cabin for the weekend, right?
Mhm.
And then the anxious person is just sitting there and they're, and then all of a sudden they start wondering what's going on, or they maybe chase them up the mountain in their car.
Yeah,
right?
As like saying, hey, look, I'm showing you I love you. And then they're like, wait, get away from me.
So now that we've talked about those, and I guess we should also state, right, with the anxious avoidant, what's very interesting, kind of like as we mentioned last time, it's like this collision that occurs of the two.
Yes.
So like we said, what we see with the anxious or what we see with the avoidant, with someone who has an anxious avoidant attachment, you see a mix of these things occurring within their relationships.
Right. But, as we said last time too, I think it would also be good. They're not necessarily bad partners. You just got to understand and meet them where they're at.
Right.
And when you can get them to feel safe, some of that avoidant behaviors over time will start to decrease.
Yeah.
As long as they can feel safe with their partner, they can become more secure and create a wonderful relationship. Right.
So with the, again, with the anxious person, maybe what they're needing with their attachment style is for their partner to be like, hey, I do care about you. I do love you. Remember that.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to leave you.
Right.
With the avoidant, it's, again, we want them to remind them, hey, we love and care about you. And hey, if you need a few minutes or some space for a moment, that's okay.
Yeah. If you want to go away on the weekend, I'm going to go away on the weekend. And I'm just going to be okay with it because we're respecting it. Right.
Right. So now let's talk about the secure attachment, right? Like what is that like in relationships?
So secure attachments, they're the ones. So anxious are all about, that deeper relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Secure have an element of that, right? They have the idea of, well, honestly, elements of both. When they're in a relationship, they're in it for the relationship, right? They want us to be one, like an anxious. But they're very good about problem solving strategies. They want to fix issues. They don't mind issues coming up because like, oh, well,
yeah,
right?
They're going to happen. They're going to exist.
Yeah. So they're great about problem solving strategies. There's a great story. President Hinckley, it says in his autobiography, I love this story because I'm like, dang, what an amazing couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
President Hinckley and Marjorie Pay Hinckley, the two of them were married for a long time. President Hinckley was the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, back in the 90s into the early 2000s.
Yeah. But when he was called as an apostle, he was really young.
Yes.
Right? And so they had a young family, and as part of his assignment as an apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was that he would be called to go into different parts of the world to check on the members in those areas and to, talk with heads of estates and stuff like that, right? Well, there was one trip coming up, and his wife learned about it, and he said, Marjorie, maybe I should have you come on this one.
Yeah.
And so Marjorie was like, okay, let me know. He said, all right, let me think on it. Well, as the day came and kept coming, and, it got closer and closer, she started wondering, am I going or not, right?
Right.
Well, literally the night of him packing to leave that next morning, she kind of poked her head in the bedroom when he's packing and said, hey, hon, am I coming on this trip?
Yeah.
And President Hinckley said, kind of snapped back at her as like, it says something along the lines, says, do I have to answer that question now? Can't we solve that problem later?
Yeah. Do I have to decide for you?
Yeah.
Sort of a thing. Yeah.
Well, it was like, and Marjorie said in her reflection on it was like, I could have snapped back and said, yes, you do, because I got to find out someone to babysit our kids. I got to plan to make sure that they're safe and fed and watered, right? I got to pack and make preparations to leave on the same plane you're leaving on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I knew in that moment I could have snapped at him because he was being a bit ridiculous. But I also recognized he had a lot on his plate and he wasn't really snapping at me. He just doesn't like to travel and always be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, okay. So she stepped away, and President Hinckley came back to her later and said, I'm sorry for snapping at you. And they made plans to go, and it went fine.
Right.
But that's like the most picture perfect, secure relationship you can imagine.
Right. And you see what they talk about when they're saying those secure attachments, right? They recognize that it's not about them when problems often arise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That there's usually something else deeper going on or happening, and they don't often lose sight of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will be willing to provide space for their partner, or be willing to make accommodations if required or needed at times. They don't do the hint dropping.
Yes.
Right? Like, again, if we look at that scenario, I guess a hint drop would be her coming in like, wow, that would really be nice if I could go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or wow, I wonder what it's like over there this time of the year,
One of my favorite ones was, came from, it was a seminar, but he also put it into a book. It was For All Eternity. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And hearing him doing the seminar, he's started to talk about one of the people who are hint dropping his clients that hint dropped. And he's like, it was so funny because he starts going, he says, I had one client was the most amazing hint droppers. If one person went, the whole family would start going, because they would be sniffing out there, someone sniffed, so there must be a foul smell in the room. Yep. And so they're running around looking for the foul smell. All it took was a sniff. It could have been a sniffle, but everybody knew what that hint was.
Right.
Whoa, what's that bad smell like? And I'm like, that's hint dropping at its best, But you're right. If people say, "Hey, I just need space," right? For someone who's avoidant, right? A secure person go take your space, right?
Mm-hmm. They recognize it's not about me that they're upset.
Right.
There's probably something going on, and they obviously probably don't want to talk about it later. But if they have that space, likely they're going to come back and they'll say something.
But if they're an anxious individual and they say, "Hey, I need some space," I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to go work on the car." And then the anxious person will be like, "Wait, don't you care about me? You care more about your car?"
Yeah. You've always liked that car more than me, right?
It's not about the car here.
Yeah. And so, that's, again, part of the follies that I guess you'd say a secure attached person runs into.
Right.
With that is that when people say they're okay, they take it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And they have such great ability to be like, it's okay. They'll come to me when they need it. But an anxious person needs help calming down. Avoidant person, while they're away, they're going to sweep it under the rug, pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so if a secure person's like, "Hey, are we good?" It's like, wait, you just lift back the rug. Right? Why'd you do it?
Yeah. You see that pile that I left there?
This is why I can never talk to you about anything, right?
Yeah. And so we hope that this paints a good picture of what is it that these attachment styles look like when they're actually in action. Because once we understand that, it's very interesting how it changes up the dynamic of relationships, but also what we see in therapy.
Yes.
Quite frequently, right? It's interesting because people will come in with these problems or issues, and we're able to see pretty quickly, oh, this isn't about the car. This isn't about the dishes. This isn't about the laundry.
Right.
You know, and helping people understand what is it about. And being able to understand that really helps people be able to put into perspective what they can do.
Yes. And you know, and I think next time maybe we'll talk about some of the fun dynamics between as they mix, right?
Right.
Like the anxious avoidant one, that one's probably the most conflictual.
Oh, yes. Those are the ones that I know when we get them in, you know, as a couple, oh man,
yeah, because
are those clashes that end up happening.
Because it requires a lot of settling down of the individual on the individual level, understanding it.
Because they activate one another.
Yes. Yes. And it's not just like a, you know what, you made me angry. It's more primal.
Yes.
It is very deep.
Yes.
While we laugh at it, we do take it serious.
Yes.
Right. We're not laughing at people's pain, but it is real. And our clients, ironically, they laugh at this stuff once they kind of like, oh, I see the cycle.
Yeah, once we're able to kind of get them up on that hilltop, right, looking down and going, oh.
They look back on it and they'll laugh with us about it. Like, that was kind of ridiculous. Yeah, but that's funny.
Yeah.
But you learned, right? Aren't you glad you're not there anymore?
Right.
But so, you know, keep sticking with us. And if you have questions, please feel free to drop can they drop messages on YouTube?
Yeah, they can drop a comment.
Drop a comment
down below. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're there on those platforms. Check us out. But as always, you know, join us again next week as we kind of dive a little bit more into this and kind of get at the really fun things that we get to see.
Yes.
But yeah, until next time, we'll see you guys later.